So here we are. The doctor said, "Don't fret, I'll not run away." Whom did he say so? He said so to the mother of Joe Morgan, Mrs. Joe Morgan, who was frightened for the presence of doctors. So here we are. Down in kitchen, he drank the tea which she gave him. Now here in this sentence, she is the mother of Joe Morgan, Mrs. Joe Morgan. She took the doctor to the kitchen and served him tea there. Overawed as he was, he knew he could not snatch even an hour's sleep if he went home. Overawed means tired, exhausted. He was exhausted, tired, but he was aware of the situation. What he was aware of? He knew that he could not go home and have sleep for an hour. He could not go home and have sleep for an hour. This was his situation, that he could not leave the place, he could not go home, he could not sleep there for an hour, because he might be required at that place after some time. He knew too, one more thing he knew, that the case here would demand all his attention. The second thing he knew, that the problem here, it needs his more attention. A queer lethargy or spirit came upon him. He decided to remain until everything was over. Lethargy means laziness. He became a bit queer, means strange. Lethargy means laziness. Queer means strange. A strange laziness came over his spirit, over his thoughts, and he decided to be there, remain there, to stay there until everything gets sorted out, until he could complete the task for what he was there. An hour later, he went upstairs again, noted the progress made, came down once more, sat by the kitchen fire. He checked his patient. After 1 hour, again he checked his patient. He checked his progress, the changes. Then he again came down and sat near the kitchen fire. It was still, except for the rustle of a cinder in the grate and the slow tick-tock of the wall clock. Now here in this paragraph, the writer explains you the situation around the doctor. What is it? It is the night time, so it is silent. The silence was there around him. Complete silence. And when we know complete silence is there, then we can hear what is called pin drop silence. When in the silence, we can hear the dropping of a pin also. So he sat by the fire. It was still. There was no movement except the rustle of a cinder. Cinder means Nakul is doing that. At present, Nakul is doing. Except the rustling, there was cinder means the half burn fuel or wood that was kept in grate. Grate means furnace, where you burn something to cook food. So there was fire there, and there was the sound of fire. You can hear to the sound of fire. You can hear there is a rustling sound. Hissing sound is hissing sound you find when you find big fire. So this is rustle of cinder in the grate. The slow tick tock of the wall, and on the wall there was a clock, and the sound of clock as well as the sound of fire. It was the only thing that could be heard that time. No, there was another sound, the beat of Morgan's footstep as he paced in the street outside. One more thing could be heard, that was the uh, footbeat of Mr. Morgan. The old woman opposite him sat in her black dress, quite motionless, her eyes strangely alive and wise, probing, never leaving his face. Now, who else was sitting with the doctor? The old lady, the mother of Mrs. Joe Morgan. She was sitting opposite, in front of the doctor. She was wearing black dress. She sat without any movement, motionless, without any movement, her eyes strangely alive and wise. She was awakened and probing, possibly, never leaving his face, continuously watching the doctor. Along with the doctor, the old lady, the mother of Joe Morgan, was sitting there in the room. She was watching the doctor. Her eyes were strangely alive. So there is a strange liveliness in the eyes of hers, and she was looking at the doctor. His thoughts were heavy, muddled. The thoughts of the doctor were heavy because he was tensed, muddled, confusion. Full of confusion. He was stressed and confused. The doctor was stressed and confused. The episode he had witnessed at Cardiff station still obsessed him morbidly. Now, Cardiff station, again, they are talking about the doctor and his beloved who had the argument at Cardiff station. So again, he said that he again went to his thoughts, thinking of the things that had happened. Still, he's worried, morbidly, gloomily, sadly. He was sad. He thought of Bramwell, foolishly devoted to a woman. Now, when he was thinking of his beloved, number of things are coming to his mind. Different examples from his surroundings are coming to his mind. When general thing about humankind, whenever we are worried, we think of others. We start thinking of others. If I haven't done work, so I start finding who else is there in the class who hasn't done the work. So in the same way, when he was upset, he was sad, he was thinking of his beloved, many things come to his mind. What are the things? First, he thought of Bramwell. This is a person foolishly devoted to a woman. One of his acquaintances, Bramwell, who was devoted to him, who was all time thinking of a lady who deceived him sordidly. Now again, the lady whom Bramwell loved, she deceived him and sordidly, dishonestly. Of Edward Page, first he thought of Bramwell, Now this sentence thought, afterthought, the first thing is Bramble. Second thing he thought of Edward Page. Who was Edward Page? The doctor whom he assisted. Second, he thought of Edward Page, bound to the shrewish bloodwind of Denny, living happily apart from his wife. Now he was thinking of his doctor whom he assisted, bound to. Here bound to means married to. Although bound to means connected, but here it means married to. He was married to the shrewish bloodwind of Denny. Denny is a place. He was married to Bloodwind, but still after marriage, he was living unhappily. He was not happy because he was living far from his wife. He was not living with his, apart from means he was not living with his wife. His reason told him that all these marriages were dismal failure. His reason, whose reason? The doctor's reason. The doctor's reason explained this man. Who is this man? Andrew, that the marriages are only failure. It was dismal means sorrowful. Sorrowful failure means something something disappointing and something giving you pain. It was a conclusion. The result of all this situation was, which in his present state made him wince upset. This conclusion plus the argument with his beloved made him upset. Sad means upset. He wished to consider marriage as an idyllic state. Yes, he could not otherwise consider it with the image of Christine before him. Although the situation, the example of Bramwell, the example of Edward Page, these two examples are explaining him, telling him that marriage is none other than a sorrowful disappointment. But he did not want to trust these things. Why he did not want to trust these things? Because he wanted to think of his beloved. He wanted to think of Kristen. He wanted to be happy. He wanted to think of a relation with his beloved. See, he wanted to be happy. He did not want to trust these things. Her eyes shining towards him. Now, her means Kristen's. Kristen's eyes were shining at Dr. Andrew, admitted no other conclusion. And those shining eyes were telling only this reality, that marriage can be successful. It was the conflict between his level, doubting mind and his overflowing heart which left him resentful and confused. Resentful means upset, unhappy, confused. So again, as we see, there was a war in my mind and heart. Confusion, what to do. My reason says this thing is correct, but my heart says this thing is correct. So the same conflict, was going on inside Dr. Andrew mansion. His heart and brain were not, his heart and brain were not agree. He was not able to decide the things. He was confused, upset somewhere. He let his chin sink upon his chest. Sink means drawn. It is not possible that chin could sink in chest, but the situation when we bend our head and sit by putting our head down, this situation is explained in these words. that he sat putting his head down close to his chest, stretching his legs were stretched out. He stared broodingly into the he stared broodingly into the fire. Uselessly, he was looking into the fire. Thought he was thinking. He was busy. He was engrossed in his own thoughts and looking at the fire, broodingly, thoughtfully. He remained like this so long, and his thoughts were so filled with Christine that he started when the old woman opposite suddenly addressed him. Now he was thinking and thinking and thinking. He was busy and he was looking at the fire. Suddenly, the old lady called him. Addressed means called him. Her meditation had pursued a different course. Meditation thoughts. Because Dr. Andrew mentioned was busy in his thought. Who was there in his thought? His beloved Christine. While the lady was worried for her daughter who was expecting a baby, so her thought was going in, her thoughts took a different direction. So it is said her meditation, her thoughts pursued, taken a different course, were busy in a different way. Toussaint said not to give her the chloroform if it would harm the baby. She is awful set upon this child, Dr. Batch. Her old eyes warmed at a sudden thought. She added in a low tone, we all are, I fancy. Shushan is the name of Mrs. Joe Morgan. Now the lady talks about her daughter. She said that the lady, mother of Mrs. Joe Morgan, mother of Suzanne Joe Morgan, said that she did not want to take chloroform. She was scared. The lady was frightened that chloroform might harm her would-be baby. She was awful. She was scared, set upon the child. She was awful set upon the child. She was hopeful for her child. Her old eyes warmed at a sudden thought. There was a suddenly a thought came to the lady and she, yes, Ria, write your query, beta. What happened? Ria, you want to say something? Write the text. Write in the text. Means a sudden thought. Suddenly, the old lady recalled something and she explained that to doctor. What she explained that her daughter did not want to have chloroform because she thought that it might harm her baby. The old lady said this in low tone, and she again added to it that they all were worried for the baby. He collected himself with an effort. As he heard these things, the doctor came back to the present situation. Collected himself means he came out of his thoughts. So whatever he was thinking, he added some effort and came out of those thoughts. It won't do any harm. The anesthetic, the anesthesia, the medicine that is used to chloroform or anesthesia that is used to make the patient unconscious for the pain will not harm. This is said by the doctor. He said kindly, they will be all right. He assured the lady that there would be no harm to the lady as well as her baby. So she needn't worry. Here the nurse voice was heard calling from the top landing. Andrew glanced at the clock, which now showed 3:30. He rose and went up to the bedroom. He perceived that he might now begin his work. Now, except this, the doctor heard the call of the nurse also, the midwife also, who was calling him from the room. So doctor checked the time. The time was 3:30. 3:30 means 3:30. He woke up, he got up, he got up, he stood, rose means he stood and went to the bedroom. He expected, perceived means he hoped, expected that this was the time to start the work. So till here we have done the chapter. If you have any query, sir, stop recording. Till here we have read the chapter. If you have any query,